Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend Luke Clayton and his guest for the next hour.
This is Dustin Vaughn Warncke, producer of this fine show that's been airing for the past 20 years. Welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoor writer for the past 4 decades and writes for a whole host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly outdoors column that appears in over 50 Texas newspapers, and he's lived the outdoor lifestyle since childhood. Luke partners with such companies as Pyramid Air, the ultimate source for air guns and outdoor essentials, CVA muzzleloaders, and their fine line of CVA Cascade centerfire rifles, Smoke and Tex electric smokers, ATN thermal scopes and binoculars, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge in southeast Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation, Butcher Packer Supply, everything for the home butcher and sausage maker, the Dallas Safari Club at biggame.org, and the Saskatchewan Department of Tourism. Now, here's Luke to kick things off with his longtime friend, Larry Weishuhn.
Well, thank you guys for that nice introduction, and friends, it is now Campfire Talk time. Mr. Larry Weishuhn is with us. We're going to have some fun. I think Larry mentioned we might want to talk about bear hunting. Larry, welcome to our show. This will be 20.25 years that we've been doing it.
Oh, my gracious, Luke.
Yes. Yep.
That is fantastic. I'll tell you what, I've said so very often, I'll say it one more time. And hopefully a few more times in the future as well, too. This is the one thing that I look forward to every week, of being able to visit with you and all the great people that we have out there. And as Bill Carey says, out in radio land.
That's right. That's true. A lot of people, obviously everyone doesn't know about Catfish Radio, even though we do have a lot of friends that listen. But friends, Catfish Radio has been going on about 21 years. Larry's been with me almost the whole time on this segment, Campfire Talk. But a few years ago, I was told they started calling the radio show a podcast, and I talked to a few of the radio station owners, and I said, "Look, they're calling it." They said, "Well, that's just a modern terminology." I said, "But this is a radio show that's on right now about 35 different radio stations, and thank goodness for all those stations. They could run anything, Amen. But they run this one, so I'm thankful." So I've always, and when people say, "Luke, you have a podcast?" Well, yes, this becomes a podcast, doesn't it, Larry? After the stations run it, it's everywhere on the podcast formats. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on iHeart, you name it, Outdoor Action, Carbon TV, all those others. And, we started doing this as a podcast. And then prior to that, I've been doing for about the last 6 years now, my weekly podcast called DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn. And it too is on all those same different stations that we talked about, or platforms, and all those other kind of good things. And, we've been so very fortunate. You and I are both very much involved with the Dallas Safari Club, with DSC, which is Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, and, of course, both you and I shoot Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable, and both of us, too, use stealth vision optics on our rifles and binoculars and spotting scopes. And, of course, they're headquartered there in Crockett, Texas. And then I love hunting with handguns, and so for the last several years now, I've been hunting with the Taurus Raging Hunters in the 454 and pardon me, excuse me, 44 mag. But I love hunting with handguns. One of the things I wanted to address this morning a little bit is we've had a bunch of friends who have been black bear hunting in Canada, particularly because we have very few seasons left in the springtime here in the U.S. and the States, kind of thing, outside of maybe one or two others beyond Alaska. But spring bear hunting is something that I have so much enjoyed over the years. I unfortunately did not get to go this year because of the trip that I did to Europe. That probably next week I'll tell you a little bit about that one. And for roe deer, we're going to be hunting in roe deer in 3 different nations in Sweden, in Poland, and then finishing up in Scotland before heading back home. But the spring bear thing it's the ideal time to hunt bear when you get right down to it, because sometimes people are baiting bear, and I've sat on a lot of different bear baits over the years, and hunted them in the spring too, spot and stock, we're around natural food areas. But the beauty of those spring bear hunts, hunting with around around a bait pile, if you will, is that you get to see so many different bears, and you get to see so much interaction between those bears, and to me that's what makes it as much fun as when you finally get an opportunity to pull back your bow or pull the trigger on a crossbow, or like me with a rifle. Unfortunately, when I've hunted in Canada, or unfortunately Canada does not allow handguns, otherwise I would be hunting up there with a handgun as well too.
You bet. I have never hunted spring bear at all, but I've been heavily exposed to black bear in the fall for about, I think it was a total of 8 years. You're well aware of this, but Larry Large, a good friend of mine, who was a top elk guide in the West for a long, he was a head guide on the Hickory Ranch. Gosh, he was all over. He guided for a big outfitter. Then he and I outfitted for about 8 years, something like that. But every fall it was archery season, Larry, and I was exposed to a whole bunch of bear. There were so many bear there in northern Colorado. We were hunting right on the Elk River, about 15 miles northeast, I think it was, of Steamboat Springs there. And there were so many black bear that our elk hunters, they'd come in, they'd see 2, 3, very common to see several bears while you were bow hunting for elk every day. I mean, that there were that many. You shoot an elk, Larry, you better find him fast. I mean,
exactly,
because those bears will. One time, Larry was guiding a fella, and he shot one late one evening, and he did not make a good shot. The elk actually, I remember we started tracking it, and I found a broken arrow. Oh gosh, back in the aspens, it was at least several hundred yards from where he'd shot it. We went on and found saw a bunch of magpies out there circling, and came up on that bear. I should say came up on the elk. This was the next morning.
Right.
We looked at that evening for forever and lost all sign of blood. And after Larry knew where the shot was, and he expected it to go down, it did go down. But we came up, there were 3 bears, Larry, on this elk, and we spotted, the bird showed us where the elk went down.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So we knew with no blood, we just followed the circling birds, and walked up. We got in, I don't know, 50 yards. And I'll swear that was one time that these were not giant Canadian bears. These bears probably averaged 150, 175 pounds. They were 3 grown bears. But they didn't immediately run. They were on that kill. And,
well, that was their kill at that point.
That was their food. But it was so common to see bears in the fall. I have no experience hunting them over bait, because that's illegal up there. But and in the spring, I've never spent time in the bear woods in the spring. But one other thing, that if you're ever going up in the Rockies to hunt black bear, that I can guarantee you, if there's any in the fall, if there's any water, a pond, a elk wallow, etc., you get on that thing about 2:30 in the afternoon, and if there's any bear in there, I bet you'll agree, Larry, they're going to be in that water if it's hot in September. If it's just a warm day, they love to swim. and they get in there, and you'd think they're doing the backstroke sometime. It's so common. But, yeah, so I've never had the opportunity to hunt them in the spring. Not that I wouldn't like to, but that's kind of my experience with black bear. And I want to ask you about, black bear that I've witnessed are highly curious critters, very curious. And we have had them come up climb up. We'd set up ladder stands and all, and usually on an aspen tree because it's straight. And many times we had bear, 2 or 3 instances, climb the tree or start coming up the stand with a hunter sitting up there. Not uncommon at all, Larry,
It is not uncommon. And usually, you mentioned that it's purely out of curiosity. Now, the thing about it is they are potentially dangerous. I mean,
yes.
And I will tell you that based upon years of experience out in the West and in the North, and where they're both grizzly and black bear, those people that are around both those bears will tell you that actually, when you get right down to it, a grizzly will hit you, knock you down, roll you around, bite you a bunch of times, and then leave you. If a black bear does basically the same thing, he will not leave you. He's after he knocks you down and chews on you while, he's going to eat you alive. So, you have to they are potentially dangerous. And to me, that makes part of the fun. And you never know. I've had them crawl up in tree stands with me when we're hunting. Usually I hunted on the ground, but I've had them coming up almost smelling my gun barrel and those kind of things. And usually the most dangerous out of those bears is those probably 2 to 3-year-old bear. They're out to prove a point that they're mean and tough. And since you mentioned, we do have a lot of fall seasons throughout the West, and then over in the Northeast as well too. Some of the biggest bear in the world, black bear, are found along the coastal areas of North Carolina, because of the food supply that's there, and they never really hibernate. Bears hibernate primarily because there's nothing for them to eat. And so that's the reason they hibernate during the wintertime. But in these areas, and we're getting an increasing number of bears coming into Texas, and of course Oklahoma. I'll be hunting up on the Choctaw for bear in October with a 10-point crossbow, and those bears are huge as opposed to others, because again, when it gets really cold, they'll find a spot and lay down for a few days if necessary, or they may just keep right on feeding. But as long as there's food, those bears are going to be up. And you're right, I've shot a lot of bear around water holes, particularly in north central and northeastern New Mexico, just below the Johnson Mesa that runs east and west there along the border, around water holes. There is you find a place where there's water, look, see if there's a bear track there. And if there's a bear track there, they're going to be back, because they like the water, but they also water every day when they have the opportunity.
That's true. That's true. Larry, let's take a break and come back and talk some more about bear. How about that?
Fantastic.
Okay, folks, stay with us. We'll be back after a little short break here. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, if you enjoy hunting, I want to hook you up with Ultramatic Feeders. You need to know about this company. The website is ultramaticfeeders.com. They are a one-shop stop for everything you need with hunting blinds. They have all kind of different brands of hunting blinds, game feeders, parts for feeders. Again, the website is ultramaticfeeders.com. And friends, I've been using Smoking Tex electric smokers for over 15 years, probably closer to 20 years. You can go online to smokingtex.com. They're not one of your throwaway electric smokers that you can find at some package stores. These things are made to last. I've got one that I've been using for, that length of time, probably 15 years. Check them out online, smokingtex.com. Well, friends, we are back with Mr. Larry Weishuhn, and we were talking about bear hunting, and I thought it'd be fun to talk some more. We just kind of scratched the surface as many years as Larry's had hunting bear, and I've been exposed to them pretty heavily up in Colorado for several years. But the spring, I can see why baiting bear. I wish they would allow that. Definitely in Colorado, there's still a lot of bear up there in northern Colorado, and I'm sure other parts. But the thing about hunting it over bait is a lot like hog hunting, because Larry, when I hunt hogs, I'm picky, real picky. I mean, I'm usually hunting them as a rule, unless I'm doing one for an article or something on big boar. I mean, I'm looking for a particular hog to eat. So hunting over bait, whether it's bear or hog, it gives me a chance to pick out that fat gilt, a young sow, or whatever I'm looking for meat. But same with bear. If you're hunting for a trophy bear or whatever, you can look over a bunch of them and pick the one, pick out your target bear, right?
You really can. And for the most part, like where they do have spring bear seasons or even fall bear seasons. I mean, the sow, the cubs, they're excuse me, it's not legal to shoot those. So to me, that spring bear hunt is an ideal time. It's kind of like turkey hunt when you get right down to it. You're targeting, the male because you can do that. And we're sitting on a bait. Again, you can see so many bears. You can learn about bear behavior, all those kind of things that you'd never learn just trying to go out and just hunt on your own without doing it, but without having, the opportunity to see a lot of them. But there you can target those older boars that you're looking for. And to me, it just comes at an ideal time when you get right down to it. But unfortunately, unless you hunt Canada or maybe Alaska or, maybe, I can't remember. It seems to me like there may be one spring bear hunt open in some of the Northwest kind of thing. But, for the most part, we can only hunt them, in the fall. And we talked a little bit about hunting water holes and those kind of things. And I know that I've got talking to Fred Eichler. Now, a lot of people may know who Fred is, probably do. He's been doing TV shows for a long time.
Yep.
Hunts with the Bow outfits up in southeastern Colorado. And they hunt there in the fall. Of course, that's when the seasons are, but they hunt the edge of as they start harvesting the corn, because there's a lot of corn grown up in that part of the country. Those bears, they kind of live in that corn for the most part. When they start harvesting it, all of a sudden, they're kind of get exposed. So kind of going back and forth with Fred a little bit about possibly coming up there and hunting during the fall. They have a fall bear season there. So, you hunt food sources primarily, but, a lot of black bear too are kind of shot incidental to everything else. I've shot black bear in up north during the hunting when I was hunting early for whitetail deer, and hunted them, a few other places up there during the fall. But also, we mentioned, the increasing number of bears, and even in Texas and in the eastern part of Oklahoma, and I'll be up there on the Choctaw Hunting Lodge during their archery season starting in October as well too. So, right now if you hadn't already booked a spring bear hunt, we're kind of the tail end of all that right now for some of the northern country. But it's time to start making plans for hunting bear during the fall. And we talked a little bit about the water hole thing. There's areas where you can bait for bears in the fall, and it can be an exciting hunt. Now, last year I didn't get to hunt Choctaw, but Mr. Edgar and David Cotton went up there, and about 20 minutes apart, Edgar killed a 346-pound bear, and David killed one a little bit smaller than that. And so I think they've been around bears in the past and hunting in Colorado, but that was their first serious attempt at hunting bear. And I think they're kind of hooked like most everybody else is once they really get into bear hunting.
That's true. That's true. A lot of course, I was raised up in northeast Texas, up in Red River County, and I've still got connections. I've got buddies up there, and black bear have about, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, I guess, when they first started coming across the red, out of Oklahoma and ultimately from Arkansas. A lot of those bears were a lot of bear now in Arkansas, in parts of Arkansas.
Right.
But they're coming into Texas. Of course, out in West Texas, they've been showing up out of Mexico for years. Larry, I've got a funny bear story to tell you and our friends. I think we have time to tell it real quick. But when we were outfitting up in Colorado, my buddy Larry had an ex-wife named Darlene. Okay, well, there's a big cinnamon phase-looking black bear. It's
Yes.
brownish, beautiful bear. I saw it several times. But this bear weighed about 300 pounds, Larry estimated. He was better at estimating bears' weight than me. And Darlene, he named it Darlene for a reason. You should hear him back in the day tell this story. But he said this bear was mean, and it was mean. It backed him off that mountain one time on a road. He backed up, and Darlene would come up and huff and followed him for 100 yards or more.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but so our other friend Mark Billette, you've met, you and Mark are friends. You know.
Oh,
Mark.
Absolutely.
So Mark is was hunting elk, I believe it was, on our day off. You know, he had his tag and all that.
Right.
Well, so he's up in an aspen tree, about 15 foot up in a ladder stand. Here comes Darlene. And it's obvious that most of the bears would weigh 150, less than 200 pounds. Darlene was a lot bigger. She was a big old sow bear. Here comes Darlene down he's hunting on the side of a trail. I remember the spot real well. So Darlene's waddling down through there and spots him up there. Well, she comes up, and it's not uncommon for them not to run. It's just not. I mean, I had bear all over me several times, too close. But this one, Darlene comes up, and Mark's telling, he said, puts her paw up on the ladder and gets her nut. She's like climbing it like a man, you know, like you put your foot up that thing and hook a paw and drag herself. And she got about halfway up that ladder. And Mark was concerned, because I would be very concerned. I'd have probably jumped out of there. But anyway, Mark did not have a bear tag. He could not shoot a bear. You cannot, back in those times, this has been 10, 12 years ago, you could not carry a firearm when you were bow hunting either.
Right.
And I think you can now. I'm not sure. But anyway, so here comes Darlene up the ladder, you know, and so finally Mark says he's hollering and kicking, and Darlene just kind of looking him eye to eye, just kind of sneaking on up there. And I'm sure he was, you know, petrified. I would have been. And so he got a blunt tip. It's a hard rubber tip on one of his arrows. I don't know. Mark's pretty good, heck of an archer. I wouldn't have had one of those handy, but he did for some reason. He said Darlene was up there about, I don't know, 6 or 8 feet up that ladder, coming on up, and he said, I can't kill it, but I got to do something. And he put that blunt on there and hit that bear on the top of the head. And he said old Darlene just shook her head. I could just kind of like you know, mosquito bothering you or something. And I said, well, then what? Then what happened, Mark? And he says, well, she just kind of shook her head and then got down on the ground, and I guess it addled her a little bit, you know, that whack on the top of the head. He said she started kind of just looking confused. And all of a sudden, they was up on the side of a mountain, you know, pretty steep drop down in there. He said all of a sudden she bailed off that mountain. So he said I saw brush breaking for 100 yards. So that bear just so they can do some funny, crazy things, those bears. And I've had them up close. And one time, Larry, you've got a million stories yourself. I don't want to dominate all this, but I'll still tell you one thing. One time I was guiding this elk hunter near a wallow, and, you know, it's not always action-packed. They weren't coming to calls, not even cow calls. I had him hunting on actually a pond, which the elk were coming into. I got over there at a little old pin oak mott, and not pin open, that shinnery looking stuff they've got up there. And anyway, I'm kind of kicked back. I'd been guiding for a week, and I was kind of tired. I leaned up against one of them little old scrub oaks, and I don't know, I might have dozed off. I'm not real sure. I could have. I was tired, up late tonight before with game. Anyway, I look up, and there's two little babies, I don't know, little things, frisking around out there. I don't know, they weren't 20 yards from me, and they kind of woke me up, really, to be honest with you. And I thought, oh my gosh, now, this is not good. But it turned nothing bad happened. But I heard this huffing, just a couple of quick, like, giving orders to these cubs.
Right. Oh yeah.
You've heard it. I know anybody in
Absolutely.
She made a couple of quick sounds, and those she was, I don't know, I never saw her, to be honest with you. I think she was probably in the brush, maybe 40 yards away. But those little rascals' ears perked up, and they ran like crazy straight to her. But I was just thinking, man, what if, what if she had been between, come in there and own me? I could have got tense, couldn't it?
It could have got really intense. I've had numerous bear encounters, and I've written them up numerous times. Matter of fact, if people are interested in we didn't talk about guns or anything like that, or some of the other things that have happened. But if they want to, and if they're interested in black bear, they can go hunting black bear. They can go to my website, which is LarryWeishuhn.net. I've got about 100 or so stories
you
there
do.
They can read, and a lot of them are about bear hunting.
Yeah.
You mentioned them crawling them up a ladder. I had one I was hunting in Alberta, right up on the very north part of that province. I mean, probably within about 30 miles of Northwest Territories, and had one crawl up into a platform with me. I was sitting watching the bait, and about a 6x6 platform. He crawled all the way up. One of those young bear that was really aggressive, and I had about they had left, thankfully, about a 3-foot 2x4 laying there on top. Then when they finished that platform, and I used it, and I hit that bear and knocked him out of the tree and off that platform. And he just got mad, after that. But thankfully, about the time all that happened, after this is a lot more to it to lead to that. But thankfully, about that time, the guy drove up to pick me up. Otherwise, I had bear tag in my pocket, but like I said, a lot of times those 2-3-year-old bears, they're the most aggressive.
They are. I guess that's
They're kind of like a group of teenagers trying to prove, how tough they are.
Who's the toughest? Yeah. Well, one of these, maybe on our next show, we've got bear stories. We need to tell some bear stories. I'm just getting cranked up, but I'm told we're out of time, Larry. So let's talk some more bear hunting in the near future. What do you say?
We'll do that, and maybe next time we'll talk about my part of my trip to Europe and continue on that. But absolutely, bear stories are always interesting and always exciting.
Friends, this is Luke. If you're looking to refinance a mortgage or maybe buy some rural land or whatever, I want to recommend to you a company that I've had some stellar dealings with. It's Green Lending. Now, you can go online to greenlending.com. I'm going to give you the name of a guy that helped me tremendously, Jack Hamill. And I'm going to give you Jack's number. Give Jack a call if you want to refinance or you want to buy some rural land or whatever. Jack's number there at Green Lending is 440-223-2086. Or just go to greenlending.com and check it out. It's a great company. I had some wonderful dealings with them, and most of it was done online.
Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too.
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy Mr. Justin Rudd and his team of experts and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, let's head up to beautiful Lake Texoma, up on the Texas-Oklahoma border, about an hour north of Dallas, for all of you that are not local here, or those of you that are listening to a podcast. Texoma is the striper capital of the Southwest, the South, if you want to say that. And I'm fortunate to have a good friend, Bill Carey, with Striper Express, that's with us. He's with us very frequently talking about catching those stripers. So I think Bill likes to open his little part up with a good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Luke, and all y'all out in radio land.
Yeah. Well, everybody in radio land is poised and ready to listen to get some updates. But it's not like I'm new to fishing Lake Texoma or new to fishing with you guys or new to the patterns. I've been covering in the outdoor press Texoma fishing for 40 years. And like you, I was in my 30s when I first discovered the awesome fishing up there at Texoma. The striper fishing. I was bass and catfish, and I still fish for bass. And not so much on the big lakes, but I like to catch them in farm ponds, and therefore I like to eat them too. But anyway, I've learned the patterns, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. I'm going to let you expound on this a bit. But the striper spawn here at the end of May, June here starting off, is done, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. Biologist taught me years ago. You know, we have the craziest spawn. They will start in March. And, you know, we've always talked about it, folks, that this lake is so big, it has 10-mile-long arms of this, that these females are in different stages of pregnancy, and they will start in March. And then the biologist taught me it peaks in May. So, yes, sir, it's over with. And now we're going to go into our second session of the 7-month topwater season.
Yeah, yes, topwater, and also something that I look forward to every year is tell our folks what happens. The shad are dispersed. The shad spawn is, of course, they spawn several times, but all those shad are out in the deeper water. But there's a yearly thing that happens where these fish start moving up from the lower lake up in not just one big school, but a gazillion schools, surfacing and feeding, chasing shad. Now, that's an early morning thing, but that's coming up usually, by mid-May?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. Now we're going to start grouping up. They're coming down. They're downriver. They're grouping up in large schools, and this is the summer pattern because we blind cast the banks in April and May, and it's exactly what it sounds like, blind casting. These fish explode on the plug, and now they're back in the main lake. They've come down river. They get these bait balls stirred up. And, you know, years ago, Luke, we'd have 3 traditional schools, one up the Washita, one down by Striper Alley at the dam, and then what we call the TI run. Well, that has changed in the last 5 years. We have got so much bait in this lake that they can be down here at Mill Creek where we don't have to make a 20-mile run to the dam or a 20-mile run up the Washita. It's crazy. So, and that's nice, displacing the boats, because we know what a boat show is, don't we?
Oh, yes. And folks, what Bill's talking about, and this is what I've done with you guys many years, start down there around Eisenhower, Lower Lake somewhere down in there, and get there, get up early, get there about the break of day, and then start hammering those fish. Well, they're moving, they're on the prowl, and in that school, you catch a bunch, and you motor up, and sit there and then wait on. I think I've written about it in years past as leapfrogging, what we would do. Yeah,
you go.
But that was the place we would always go, you know. But now,
yes, sir.
This is, well, I knew of 1 or 2 more runs, but now that could happen just as easily closer to Mill Creek, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you just never know. Instead of making that big run, you know, thank goodness for cell phones, because we used radios for years, and we all work together. You know, Chris, my son, is head guide. He tells people, Dad's got a saying, no heroes, no zeros. Everybody works together, and we give information out because we've got 580 miles of shoreline.
I know. Yeah. Well, so you, and I'm sure you guys, that's one advantage of having so many boats with a guide service, but you guys are probably I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and you know the likely places to be, and then you can communicate wherever the bite is good. Somebody's not catching fish, well, bingo, fire that motor up and go where they are. But that's cool, and I really didn't know that they. I knew. Well, I'm sure that old run that we fished for years is still going on, but it's not the only place to catch them. So that opens up some doors for you guys, doesn't it? You know?
Oh yes, sir. Yeah, when they're biting, say 50% of the lake, that's always nice because when we talk about boat shows, folks, we're talking about a tremendous thing. You'll have 50, maybe 100 boats in a 5-mile area chasing these stripers, and we've talked about it many times. People reduce themselves to the lowest level. They get so excited over this top water. You just got to stay calm. Like Luke said, leapfrog. Don't run through those fish when they're surfacing. Make a big loop around them and let them come to you. And then you get an hour to an hour and a half of the top water, depending on the cloud cover and sun. And then we start doing what Luke was talking about, ripping slabs.
Yep. So, but that's right. That first, like hour and a half is a lot of topwater action, and this, this is where it differs from the that I've learned. Where it differs from the early spring topwater, where you get your blind cast and you're looking at these fish. I mean, you see them out there. You see them breaking and shad popping, and That is, I've often said, if a person has very much adrenaline in their body, that will activate that adrenaline, man. It's you gotta be calm and especially if you're using a level wine reel, right, Bill?
Yeah. Professional overruns, I think what Luke's getting at, folks. Backlashes. Yep. Just get it out there. Don't try and throw it over the moon. Mm-hmm. When that fish strikes, do not set the hook right off the bat. Wait for him to pull back, and then the fight is on.
That's right.
You can spot these fish from a few miles away. Early in the morning, in that first light, you can see them splashing from a couple miles away. It just looks like, we've joked about it for years. Somebody dropping batteries out of an airplane. It's exciting.
Yep. And every fisherman is different, has different goals and desires. I like to catch a big fish as much as anybody. I do. But given the choice, and this is the truth, of going to Texoma or Whitney or any lake where there's stripers and catching one 12-pounder or catching a bunch of what's called box fish there at Texoma, give me the action. I like the action. So after that topwater bite, and you'll get plenty of action on these schooling fish, and your adrenaline will already be pumping, then that'll stop. That'll play out. When the sun gets up, they'll stop that. They'll stop feeding on the surface. But then you break out the slabs, and that's honestly, slab fishing is one of my favorites. That's when you you don't have to do a whole lot of casting on the slabs, do you? No?
No, folks. A slab in Texas is a lead spoon. It has weight to it. We use up to 2 ounces depending on the wind, and we're fishing deep water, so we want to keep a tight line. But yeah, we drop them over the side of the boat. Keep your thumb near that spool. They will hit it on the fall. And as soon as it hits bottom, just rip it up. And these reels nowadays are so fast, it doesn't wear your wrist out in your hands like it did when we were younger. They've got such fast ratios that you can just keep a good clip on it. And that thing's traveling so fast. And those fish, they just grab it. And there ain't nothing more exciting than that rod wrapping against that boat. The fight is on.
My pulse is already increasing here talking about it. And as a matter of fact, I've got a trip planned, folks, with Bill and Chris here in a couple of weeks, middle of June. And it should be primo about that time, shouldn't it, Bill?
Oh yeah. Get a good hour and a half of top water, and then they sound. The fish don't push. Okay, what's going on, folks? Is the fish push the shad to the surface? That's the bait fish, and the bait can run, but it can't hide from there on. So that's why you get that splashing. And then as that sun gets up, bait and fish are light sensitive, and they go down. And you may be in 70, 80 foot of water and have fish 30 foot thick underneath you, just feeding like crazy down there, 30 foot down.
That's where the sonar and knowing how to interpret it is so important because
Oh, yes,
you
sir.
know whoever's running the show, whoever's guiding it. Well, we got
Right.
them stacked up from 25 to 35 foot down. Well, that tells you don't drop all the way. You might catch one trying to drop it through all those fish, but drop it down maybe 40 foot and then work it back up
Right.
through them. Keep it in the strike zone, in other words, right, Bill?
Yes, sir. Your guide will tell you, just let it fall for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then you ought to be down there in front of the fish in the
Yeah.
strike zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And a lot of times you cock that handle and boom, they hit it immediately. They're just catching up with it.
Yep. And, spinning reels and bait casters both have their place. But to me, this is where I like a bait casting reel.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, sometimes because the reason is you can keep in constant communication with that lure. But it also has a drawback or two, and that is this: when you let it punch your button, keep that line tension spool adjusted where it'll fall, but not too fast. And then it's very common, Bill, that when it's falling, thump, you feel that jar, and and then what are you going to do? You got your rod in your hand, you're going to pull back. So make sure and crank that reel handle first,
That's right.
or you're out of the game,
Yeah, but just cram it in gear and let her rip.
Let her
There you
rip.
go.
Well, Bill, we're about out of time for this segment, but striperexpress.com, folks. You can go up there. You can arrange lodging for people if they're close within early morning. If they want to get up real early, they could drive up if they're close. But all they got to do is call you, and you can help them with lodging and the whole bit, can't you, Bill?
Yeah, sir. This is the time of year where it's a good idea to just get up here and have a place to lay your head down because you're going early. In July, we go the earliest we go all year at 5:30 a.m.
Yep. And how could they give you a call if they want to talk some fishing?
Sure, they can call us anytime at 903-786-4477. That is 903-786-4477.
Well, Bill, thank you, buddy, and I'm looking forward to getting up there with you and Chris and all the guys, and maybe we can get Mr. Whitetail, Larry, up there with us, and Jeff, and have a little reunion. How about that?
We'll make us a show.
Folks, I want to tell you about one of my long-term partners, and that is Pyramid Air. The website is pyramayd.com. They're a one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Big bores, little bores, PCP guns, springers, you name it. All different brands, some great airgun supplies, but also a whole lot more. Archery, ammo, optics, shooting and outdoor gear, action sports, all this stuff can be found right there and ordered through Pyramid Air. So remember, go online to pyramayd.com.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, I've been shooting and hunting with CVA muzzleloaders a long time. They are, in my opinion, the best muzzleloaders on the market. But did you know CVA also makes a very fine line of centerfire rifles, built to last and super accurate? Been hunting with those for several years. Check them both out, the muzzleloaders and the centerfires, online at cva.com. Folks, I want to introduce you to some good friends of mine at Dash for Cash Pawn Shop in Seagoville, Texas, located at 133 Hall Street. The phone number is 972-287-3121. Go by there and talk with Gary or Randy, the owner. They're great people. They've got some great prices. Again, that's the Dash for Cash Pawn Shop, Seagoville, Texas, 972-287-3121. Well, folks, this is Luke. We've got a little time in our show today, and I want to share it with you and talk about eating white bass. Now, up in North Texas, we call white bass sand bass. They're a very tasty fish. I love them, but I'll make a statement up front. I do not like white bass, sand bass, with a lot of red meat on them. Now, that red meat, some people call it a bloodline, but it's what the name implies. It's red meat. When you fillet a sand bass, white bass, you'll see the bloodline. So I'm going to tell you how I do this, and this comes after 45 years of cleaning and eating white bass, and I love the flavor. So here's what I do. Now, there's several things that you can do to improve the flavor of the fillet. Number one is remove all that red meat. Now, this sounds pretty easy, but it's kind of a delicate task to do. So here's what I do. When I fillet, I use an electric knife to fillet the white bass, okay? Well, when I run the blade down, of course, down by the backbone and cut that part of the fillet, you want to run it down as far as you can to the backbone, then turn it flat, of course, and fillet it. Okay, well, then you've got the fillet with the skin side on. Now, here's what I do that helps the finished product. Let's put it that way. I run the knife up from the skin just a fraction. I don't know how much, maybe 2 or 3 knife blades thickness, but I don't bear down on the skin. Run it up just a little bit above the skin, and that leaves most of that red meat on the skin. So that helps your task quite a bit right there. Now, when I get through filleting all the fish, this can be done right then if you're tired from fishing and you don't want to do it later. Put your fish, vacuum seal them, your fillets, or, you can freeze them in ice. That's what I usually do. Freeze them, put water in there on the fillets and stack them flat. They don't take up a whole lot of freezer space. But then when I defrost them, it's time to give them the finished touch, the trim. There's going to be quite a bit of red meat left on those fillets. Now, here's where it gets a little bit technical. So stick with me on this, but it'll help you when you start this process, I promise. You want a thin blade fillet knife. You don't want a big, heavy fillet knife. Little Rapala, little wooden handle knives, they work good, the small ones. But just get you a flexible blade on your knife, a small blade. Okay, now, here's what I want to try to impart with you. So when you're removing that bloodline, start at the head of the fillet, not the tail. Don't ask me why, but it works. If you start trying to fillet that against the grain, if you will, what you're doing is just skimming off a very fine piece of red meat. It's not thick at all. You can almost see through it, if you will, that thin. But you want a razor sharp fillet knife. Start at the head of that fillet. You just got a fillet laying there on your cleaning table. Well, make your little incision. Start at the thick part, the wide part, the head of it, if you will, and just skim right along. And don't try to do this with one sweep of your knife like you would if you were filleting the fish. Make a lot of little movements of your knife to cut through that, and then all the red meat will be gone. You left a lot of that red meat on the skin if you filleted it like I was talking about. You left much of it there, but you still have to trim. So if you get that off, you're going to lay your fillet down. You're going to see a red strip right down close to the middle of that fillet, not right in the middle, but close. I remove that. And you cannot remove it. You can't skim it off. You have to cut it off with 2. I make a V cut. And so then that fillet is reduced to 2 fillets. One big one, and the other one about the size of a popcorn shrimp, which is just as flavorful, as the big fillet. But it's small, and it's going to fry up faster. So, but removing that red meat makes it all white meat, all taste the same. So you're going to have your big piece of the fillet, then you're going to have your little smaller piece. So when you fry it, it's going to float up anyway. Well, that little crispy piece is some of the best eating on the white bass. That little piece of that, actually it's the rib section, the lower portion. Of course, you've removed the ribs, but it's that lower portion of the fish fillet. So put it all in there, meal it up, fry it together, and then just make sure and skim off those. You'll float up quicker. Get them out of your fish frying grease, oil first. Okay, now, how do you season fillets? That's a million ways you can season them. I'll tell you how I do it. I learned this a long time ago. I don't always use this, but I think it's the best way to do it. Buttermilk and Louisiana hot sauce. equal parts. The lactic acid in that buttermilk does something to any fish fillet, not just white bass. But it really adds a lot of flavor to it, I think. So what you want to do there is just mix it up, put it in your Ziploc bag, let it marinate. Let it sit there a couple hours. 1 hour would probably do it. That's a good way to do it. And then another way, you're not going to always, say you're camped out at the lake or whatever, you're not going to always have buttermilk handy. I don't. But you don't have to, but it is the best way that I found. Another way is just simply take some Louisiana hot sauce, quite a bit of it, dump it in there on those clean fillets, and then I'll just use some Tonys, sprinkle some Tonys in there, and then you can let that set for as long as you want to in the refrigerator on your ice cooler or in your ice cooler. As far as a batter, if you will, I don't put fish fillets in an egg batter and dip it in all that. I don't do that at all. But what I do is take about 2/3 cornmeal, 2/3 cornmeal and about 1/3 flour. And then I'll mix Tony's or whatever dry seasoning that you have that you like. You could use salt and garlic powder, black pepper, maybe a little red pepper. And then basically just, there's no egg wash or any of that kind of stuff. Take your filet right out of that Ziploc bag, shake it a little bit to get the extra moisture off, put it in that cornmeal, put it right in your cooking oil. And, okay, some people say, special types of oil. Yeah, olive oil, if you've got enough olive oil to fry fish, go for it. It's going to turn out great. But I just use vegetable oil, to be honest with you. Whatever's on sale as a rule, and it turns out really, really good. I just don't reuse it. I use it one time, and then it goes out somewhere, So hopefully these little tips might help you. Stripers, they're much easier to remove the red meat. You can cut that strip or pull that red meat right out of a big striped bass fillet. But stripers are the same. I do not like the red meat. Now, there's a contingency of you out there that don't mind eating the red. You like it. I've got buddies that like it. But I'm going to bet 90% of you would probably think that finished filet is going to be tastier if you remove the red meat. Folks, we are out of time. Thanks to our guests. I always have a variety of topics, or I try to every week in our show. And I want you to get out there and enjoy yourself, maybe catch some white bass. Now you know how to remove that red meat. Thanks for being with me, folks. We'll see you next week. Friends, I hope you've enjoyed our show. This is our 20th year to be doing Catfish Radio, and I enjoy doing it now probably more than I did when I first began. It's lots of fun every week. But I want to tell you about a destination, one of my favorite destinations, and it's the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. It's up in southeast Oklahoma, maybe an hour north of Paris. I don't think it's that far, but it's an awesome place. You can go online to ChoctawHuntingLodge.com and check it out. Beautiful lodge there. Trophy deer hunting on thousands of acres of Choctaw tribal land up there. It's just, if you ever go up there, you will return. A lot of eastern turkey in that part of the country. And probably our closest destination for many Texans to have a real chance to kill an eastern turkey. So that's got that going on. Exotic hunting, hog hunting. If you're an outdoor person, you'd love a visit there at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. Folks, we are out of time. Make sure and tune in next week and be safe in the outdoors.